Hello and welcome to UFO Video Addicts. This is the first video in a series of videos discussing the Serpo exchange program, which was a top secret military exchange program where 12 U.S. military personnel went to a planet called Serpo. The planet Serpo was in the Zeta Recticular Star System, and this program occurred between 1965 and 1978. This is the original posting by Anonymous, the key information provider on the site. Also included are 3 responses and seemingly independent verification. Also included are 3 responses and seemingly independent verification of the information. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Request Anonymous. I am a retired employee of the U.S. government. I won't go into any great detail about my past, but I was involved in a special program. As for Roswell, it occurred, but not like the storybook tells. As for Roswell, it occurred, but not like the storybooks tell. There were 2 crash sites, one southwest of Corona, New Mexico, and the second site at Pelona Peak, south of Detil, New Mexico. The crash involved 2 extraterrestrial aircraft. The Corona site was found a day later by an archaeology team. This team reported the crash site to the Lincoln County Sheriff's Department. A deputy arrived the next day and summoned a state police officer. One live entity, EBE, was found hiding behind a rock. The entity was given water but declined food. The entity was later transferred to Los Alamos. The information eventually went to Roswell Army Airfield. The site was examined and all evidence was removed. The bodies were taken to Los Alamos National Laboratory because they had a freezing system that allowed the bodies to remain frozen for research. The craft was taken to Roswell and then on to Wright Field, Ohio. The second site was not discovered until August 1949 by 2 ranchers. They reported their findings several days later to the sheriff of Catron County, New Mexico. Because of the remote location, it took the sheriff several days to make his way to the crash site. Once at the site, the sheriff took photographs and then drove back to Detil. Sandia Army Base, Albuquerque, New Mexico, was then notified. A recovery team from Sandia took custody of all evidence, including 6 bodies. The bodies were taken to Sandia Base but later transferred to Los Alamos. The live entity established communications with us and provided us with the location of his home planet. The entity remained alive until 1952 when he died. But before his death, he provided us with a full explanation of the items found inside 2 crafts. One item was a communication device. The entity was allowed to make contact with his planet. Somehow, I never knew this information, but a meeting date was set for April 1964 near Alamogordo, New Mexico. The aliens landed and retrieved the bodies of their dead comrades. Information was exchanged. Communication was in English. The aliens had a translation device. In 1965, we had an exchange program with the aliens. We carefully selected 12 military personnel, 10 men and 2 women. They were trained, vetted, and carefully removed from the military system. The 12 were skilled in various specialties. Near the northern part of the Nevada test site, the aliens landed and the 12 Americans left. One entity was left on Earth. The original plan was for our 12 people to stay 10 years and then return to Earth. But something went wrong. The 12 remained until 1978 when they returned to the same location in Nevada. 7 men and 1 woman returned. 2 died on the aliens' home planet. 4 others decided to remain according to the returnees. Of the 8 that returned, all have died. The last survivor died in 2002. Clarification, B.R. Victor Martinez. The paragraph above contains a typo in the original. 12 team members went and 8 returned. 2 having died on Serpo and 2 having chosen to remain. These 2 were not ordered to return. The returnees were isolated from 1978 until 1984 at various military installations. The Air Force Office of Special Investigations, AFOSI, was responsible for their security and safety. AFOSI also conducted debriefing sessions with the returnees. I have never seen or read anything about the exchange program. I once heard a little bit of information from Linda Howe, but she didn't have much information. I've monitored your emails for about 6 months. I've read emails from you and others, but I've never seen or heard the truth about the real Roswell incident or the exchange program. I like to hear what others say about this. Comment 1 by Gene Loskowski. Who is this person? Most of the information is absolutely correct. However, I never heard of any females going. To the best of my knowledge, we had 12 men, all military men, 8 U.S. Air Force, 2 Army, and 2 Navy guys. I think the females are a red herring, but maybe I just didn't have the clearance for that. They left and were gone 20 years, as I was told. When they came back, they were put in quarantine for 365 days at the complex. Only 8 came back, that much is right. 2 died a few years into their assignment on the visitor's planet. 2 others decided to remain and maybe are still alive today. Since their return, all have died, the last being in 2003 in a VA hospital. As for the Roswell incident, whomever sent the email is correct. The complete debriefing is contained in Project Serpo, Final Report 80HQD893-020, classified TS, code word. Ask Rick Doty about that report because I think it is an OSI report. Paul McGovern should be commenting on this since he was involved in the debriefing. Clarification by Victor Martinez, 1st December. The project classification was provided by Paul McGovern, not Gene Lakowski. Apologies for the error. Comment 2 by Paul McGovern. Interesting but not totally correct. Commenting on Anonymous's original email, as for the Roswell incident, absolutely right. Few people have ever gotten it entirely correct. 2 crash sites, not 1. As for the exchange program, unauthorized release of classified information, as I see it, but maybe someone currently within our government wants it out. No females were sent. 12 men, all military, 8 U.S. Air Force, 2 U.S. Army, and 2 U.S. Navy. 2 were doctors, 3 were scientists, 2 were language specialists, 2 were security personnel, 2 were pilots, and 1 was the leader, Colonel Air Force. All were sheep-dipped and completely erased from the military roles. I'm not totally sure of the training period, but I think it was about 6 months. They were able to transmit messages to Earth by means of a communication system set up prior to their trip. 1 doctor and 1 of the security personnel died 3 years into their visit. The doctor died of pneumonia and the security guy died of an injury. The exchange team had to endure extreme hardship adjusting to the environment of the visitor's planet. The heat was extreme and took many years to adjust. The food was something of a problem because the human system had problems digesting it. The team took enough food for 2 years and rationed it another 8 months, but eventually had to eat the visitors. Eben's alien name food. This caused all team members gastrointestinal problems. Eventually, they adjusted. The visitors tried to create a different food, but few worked. The team was never isolated or restricted by the visitors. They could travel as they wished and see whatever they wanted to see. After about 6 years, the team moved to a northern portion of the visitors' planet where the temperatures were cooler and which contained ample vegetation. The visitors built a small community for the team. The only major problem was time. Time was different on the visitors' planet. I don't think anyone ever figured that out. The visitors had no clocks. They didn't judge or account for time as we did. The visitors found our attempts to account for time strange. The visitors were extremely disciplined in their daily lives. Every visitor worked on a schedule which was not by a clock, but by the movement of their sun. Each little community had a large tower which filtered the sun through. When the sun was at a particular point on the tower, it meant the visitors had to do a particular thing. There was never complete darkness on the visitors' planet. It got dim but not dark. The visitors had rest periods, but not like our sleep periods. The visitors rested 3 times during their Sundays. Our team determined the entire work period was approximately 43 hours. They had 3 rest periods within that 43 hours. That is still about 14 hours straight. Couldn't get too many of our workers to do that. The visitors also didn't have months or years. They did have life periods, as our team coined it. It was impossible to judge the visitors' age, although our team did find graves. The population of the visitors' planet was about 650,000. There were small communities throughout the planet. There were underground rivers which fed into open valleys. There was industry, but all of the food was grown either in fields or in large buildings. They did have animals, different types, strange large beasts they used for work and other things, but no meat was eaten. The geological makeup of the planet was so much different than ours. Few mountains, no oceans, some trees or something similar to trees, and no other civilizations except the Ebens. Everyone looked the same initially to our team, but after some time, the team members learned to identify different Ebens by their voices. Although the Ebens couldn't speak English, they did make noises that our team members were able to translate into English. After 5 years, we had their language completely translated into English. The complete debriefing accounts for about 3,000 pages. Comment 3 by Anonymous 2. I would prefer you keep my name private, but here is my evaluation of the information from Anonymous. Number 1. As for the Roswell incident described by Anonymous in his email, this was the story I read in the historical documents called the Red Book, almost exactly to the word, although there were more details about the crash sites and what was recovered. As for the exchange program, I read about it but thought they were 12 men. I don't recall any women, but that was about all I knew. We did have a special unit that handled their debriefing, but U.S. Air Force Positive Intelligence was also involved. I was never involved in that program, but I knew other agents who were. I'd like to contact this source. I have about 1 million questions to ask. I heard Linda House speak about the exchange program some years ago. I always wondered where she got her information. Keep up the excellent work. And that is it for the first video.